Hey, shalom, 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 lakam, which is peace unto you all. Ha'ay rab tawab la atam za achiyakam yawaman or chagadol Charlotte, which is good evening. This is your brother Yawan from GMS Tampa in Charlotte. And chamatam kaya hamalakata shamayim kwa repent ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Call layim la la b'nawa Yahweh b'hasham Yahweh shai b'hasham chakadosh. Wa mashna la zakani na wa malakim shor chagadol, which is all praises to our Father Yahweh, which means He exists. Bahasham in the name Yahweh Shai delivers and double honors to the elders and apostles of their millstone. So pretty much just wanted to go into a lesson that's going into to health, because health is very imperative, in which, just coming up or being in this truth, essentially we have a duty to, live better, so which that's going to consist of first and foremost, being in these scriptures, all right, and entailing in that and compromising in that, or what's entailed, and being in these scriptures is essentially, taking care of our body, So I just wanted to go into some edification that's going into that topic, and I'm gonna start at Bon Sirach, the 30th chapter, and we'll get the 15th verse. All right, and it says, I'll start at verse 14. It says, "Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution than a rich man that is afflicted in his body." All right, in which when something is sound, that means that it's whole. All right, and that's why in the scriptures when we go into the word for peace, shalom, shalom, it has a wide use of application. All right, so shalom or shalom, that goes into something that's at peace. The body can be at peace. So when the body is at peace, it's essentially in good standing. It's in good working order. Which essentially goes into something being sound. All right, if it wasn't sound, the body wouldn't be at ease. That's why when we look at the word for disease, really it goes to dis-ease because the body is not at ease. If something is not at ease, it's not at peace. So and that's another reason why the word for peace goes into sound and to be at ease. You see, because the body is working with ease, all right, because that's how the Lord essentially created it. So reading it back, Bon Sirach 30 and verse 14, it says, "Better is the poor being sound and of strong constitution than a rich man that is afflicted in his body." We got several different examples of that. It's a lot of so-called celebrities and those of some type of influence in this world, that essentially, they don't have, their mental faculties, or they might not have their, their the faculties of their health, and essentially, they're even though it looks as if, they are thriving, really, they just barely survive and they're just barely hanging on, and also just by default, because Esau's medical system, he switched over from more of a holistic standpoint, because at one point, the world was more so on a holistic standpoint. And when I say holistic, more so like the natural, the herbs, the crystals, all right, stretching and things of that nature, all right. But what Esau has done is he's put it to where the minds of the people is more focused on pills, different surgeries, and they take that as health versus the actual true means of health, all right, having a body that's at ease, all right, and having a more holistic approach, all right. But reading verse 15, it says, "Health and good estate of body are above all gold," all right, because ultimately, gold, if we put it on the standpoint, if you look at it in the standpoint of investing, gold is a good thing to invest in. Gold can always be used. Therefore, it doesn't really depreciate with value. So it always has a value. Now putting that in perspective of our bodies, our bodies are essentially an investment. You see, because we wouldn't want to have it to where it's depreciating, which we can't notice the depreciation in those specific moments, over time, but if the body's being treated well, it will appreciate over time, and essentially it will be a good investment, all right, and those investments consist of, the holistic approach, stretching, eating well, all right, being moderate in what we consume, the diet, and the diet don't just consist of the what we eat, all right, that also goes into our lifestyle, you see, because a diet is the things that we intake, all right, whether that be what we hear, who we are around, what we eat, what we drink, all right, the things essentially that we take in, so we have to ensure that we're making a good investment, because ultimately You know, having good health. All right, it's above having an investment in gold. All right, reading it again. Bon Sirach 30 and 15, it says, health and good estate of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth. You know, it's better to ultimately have, you know, a healthy body. You know, it's going to be above, you know, having worldly riches. All right. Now skipping down, we'll go to verse 16. It says, there is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the heart. Reading it again, it says, there is no riches above a sound body. All right. No amount of riches can compare to, you know, a sound body. And first and foremost, it starts with this truth, you see, because this truth is essentially what heals us. All right. And again, to reiterate, you know, the scriptures tell us, you know, to be mindful and be cognizant of what we're intaking and how we're treating our bodies, you know. So it's essentially, this truth is all inclusive. All right. So verse 15 it says, or verse 16 it says, there is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the heart. All right. And essentially, you know, these scriptures make, you know, these scriptures put our minds, all right, at rest. All right. And again, if something is at rest, it's at ease. All right. And if something is at ease, it's at peace. All right. So that goes into a body that's at ease as well, you know. So these scriptures essentially is what heals us. That's why in the scriptures right here, I'm gonna get this real fast. This is let's get Mark chapter 10. This is Mark chapter 10, and we'll get verse 8. And it says, or it might be, it's Matthew. We'll get Matthew chapter 10 and verse 8. And it says, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils, freely they have received, freely give. You know, so it says heal the sick. All right, this word is essentially, you know, what heals us. All right, this word ultimately heals us, you know, as pursuant to, again, Matthew the 10th chapter and the 8th verse. You see, but then also corresponding that with Isaiah, the first chapter. You know, Jake, I'm going to get that real fast. Let's get that. This is Isaiah chapter 1. It's Isaiah chapter 1 and we'll get verse 5. It says, why should ye be stricken any more? Ye will revolt more and more. It says, it says, the whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. From the sole of the foot even unto the head, there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. All right, so and that's essentially, that represents a state of Jake, you know, spiritually. Jake is essentially spiritually sick and dead. All right, and just, you know, going into that topic, you know, being that Jake is essentially spiritually sick and dead, you know, what ultimately heals is this word. All right, and again, being that Jake does not have this word, you know, Jake in the body is actually literally both. Jake is literally spiritually sick and literally sick in the body. You know, Jake is very diseased. All right, which essentially it goes back to the curses, you know, but just want to get those two precepts, you see, because this is where it ultimately heals us, you see, because it heals us spiritually, and then also it's a standard that we must follow, you know, to keep these temples of ours in good standing. All right, so nevertheless, going back, Bon Sirach 30 and verse, where we at? I'm gonna skip down to verse 25, and it says, a cheerful and good heart will have a care of his meat and diet. All right, lifestyle things that he's intaking. All right, which again, it goes into, you know, the drinks, you know, what you're eating, who you're around, you know, and the things that essentially that we are allowing our spirits to ingest. All right, in which, you know, again, that goes into the lifestyle and the diet and things of that nature, you see. But corresponding with you know, the eating and you know, what we allow in our environments, you know, we can also do things like you know, like stretching. You know, stretching ensures that we have good posture. All right, stretching allows for good blood circulation. All right, and with good blood circulation, that allows the body to be in a sounder state. All right, so stretching, you know, fasting. All right, of course, prayer. You know, having a planner that gives mental ease. You know, and ensuring that, you know, we're eating in moderation. It shouldn't be to where we're eating, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day, All right, it should be, you know, something that's going to be satiating and not, you know, over satiating or eating in abundance. You know, so just wanted to go into that, you know, because health is, you know, very imperative. You know, it's something that we should stay on top of. You know, so Adawar Tazah, you know, I make this into like a, you know, like a kind of like a series, but you know, just wanted to go into again a health is wealth type edification. Adawar Tazah, Zabanaya Apollos, where there was a beautiful edification through the spirit. Adawar Tazah, Atam Yash, I Rob Tawab, Lord's will. You all have a good evening. Good evening. Wa shalom lakam, which is peace unto you all. Shalom, shalom.